was an amazing experience that I would gladly jump on a plane tomorrow and go back and live most of it all over again. It was amazing. It was incredibly eye-opening, just completely overwhelming from a plant standpoint, just the sheer diversity and variety, and even seeing plants that I was familiar with, but instead of, like I said before I went, in a small 10-inch pot, all of a sudden they're 18, 20, 50 feet tall plants that are out there. So I mean, it was just, it's like I'm familiar with it, just not in that size. And it was completely, totally amazing. I mean, real eye opener. Yeah, I came back, we came back Sunday night. I was back at work Monday morning. I had classes starting right away on Tuesday morning. So I had a couple of lab classes that we started. I had a couple lectures. I had already previewed or planned on doing a lecture on sustainable landscape practices. So my lecture had been prepared before I left. Have to admit that I didn't totally throw out my lecture, but I modified my lecture quite a bit. Stuck with the skeleton of what I had in the lecture, but then was able to take the experience and take what we had seen and take what we had heard and learned and discussed while we were away, and put that right away into focus with what I was teaching, in more information about carbon footprints and becoming carbon neutral, and that, which here in North America we're not really concerned about. It's not really a big issue, whereas it is a much more of a big issue there. So similar practices, what we need to do here to what they're doing there, they're just more advanced. But I figured it just turned out to be the perfect opportunity to right away, while it was fresh, add that into the lecture and share it with my students. And one of the first things you notice about the landscaping, besides everybody having this very small, closed-in courtyard, not really private, but all closed in and well kept, incredibly well manicured, well maintained, clean, but all of them were practical gardens, as well as having some ornamental plants. All of them had some sort of fruit or vegetable or combination of them, that it was usable, that it was there, it was outside the door, you picked it, you ate it, you prepared it, you did what you needed to. And they had the blend of the ornamentals and the edibles, and that had a symbiotic relationship, because the ornamentals actually protected the vegetables from insects, from predators, from whatever the case may be. What we would normally see as decorative plants here, and would think, as a house plant or as a pot, you're actually seeing hedges and hedgerows, and people's houses are lined with that. And another, again, the concept of the living fence all over the place. Pastures, organic pastures and that type of stuff had living fences. I noticed the botanical gardens had living fences on the outside. Starting with these very narrow trees that they literally plant a couple of feet away from each other with a little strip of barbed wire to keep animals in to start, to as they grow and mature and add more planting, that the need for the barbed wire is gone, and you create this full living wall that is virtually impenetrable. Most stuff can't get through. The first time I've seen something like that. I've seen plant buffers, but never an actual living fence, which was quite neat. Been visiting this organic garden for one of the hotels, which they use to produce all their own food to be used in the restaurant. It was similar to what we do here as far as organic gardening, but on a more productive scale than what we had. And obviously, you don't see pineapples growing in people's in organic gardens here. It was really neat to see pineapples there, other fruit, and regular domestic vegetables, tomatoes and lettuce and that type of stuff, all growing. But you can see how the climate there is not as conducive for growing stuff like that here, whereas obviously we can't grow the tropical fruits, which they have no issues with, but what we would consider regular domestic vegetables, they've really got to struggle to actually get that to grow. So it was a great opportunity. The weather, the temperatures, the climates, the soil conditions, a lot of it is the weather, just the sheer, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness, and a much longer growing season. So there's no real down period. Here we produce very short time crops, short span crops. There they can extend it, or they just have to keep replenishing over and over and over again, because of the speed of growth in the tropics is just so much faster than what we have here. what normally takes 6 or 8 weeks to come to maturity here can probably be done in half the time in the tropics. It was absolutely amazing to see all the stone walkways, this natural stone walls. I took quite extensive photos of it to bring back and share with my students, but the use of natural products and to be able to use what you had there. Unlike here, because they don't have to deal with frost, whatever else, the use of concrete is extensive. You don't have to deal with frost, that's not so bad, but there were some practices there, waffle bricks and that type of stuff, which we used to some extent here, which I was familiar with, but just seeing how they were used was really interesting to see how it was used and can be done here. Reflecting back on it, I said already one of my, it's fresh, and one of my lectures have already changed this week. Within 72 hours of getting back, I was already changing the way I was doing things. So immediately it's having an effect, and I'm sure that will continue. And as I have a chance to sort of absorb everything that was done, it was go for 12, 13 days. I can't even remember everything I did yet, and it's going to take a while for all the process. And I'm sure as I process it all, more and more of the stuff and the experiences that I had, discussions with other people. I've already made a few phone calls, and we're already working together with other departments with connections that were made there, so that we can, work together here at the college, get our programs working together and helping each other out. So that's going to be there. So is it going to have an effect on the way I do things? Absolutely, and it will be a positive effect.